October 4th, 2014, from Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas, was the number 4 ranked Oklahoma Sooners at the number 25 ranked Texas Christian University Horned Frogs. The Sooners won the toss and they deferred, so the Horned Frogs started things off as they marched down the field and they went all the way across midfield and into Oklahoma territory. And they had 1st and 10 on the 36, and they had a 21-yard pass from Boykins to Dawson that brought them to the 15-yard line. They are now in the red zone. And a few plays later, it was 3rd and goal on the 1, and Boykin fumbled, but Cliff Murray recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. So what a play that was, as it ended up being 7-0 TCU over the Sooners as they got on the board first. So Oklahoma would go 3 and out, and they punted the ball back to the Horned Frogs. So now TCU took over on their own 35. And they marched downfield rather quickly as they went 65 yards in 8 plays in less than 3 minutes, capped off by a 7-yard touchdown run by BJ Catalon. So now it was 14-0 Horned Frogs over the Sooners. Oklahoma got the ball on their own 35 with less than 6 minutes left in the first quarter. And on the first play of the drive, Trevor Knight hit Sterling Shepard for a 53-yard pass that brought them all the way to the TCU 12. 4 plays later, Samaje Perine would score on a 1-yard touchdown run as it was now 14-7 as Oklahoma cut the TCU lead to a touchdown. Now TCU took over with about 4 minutes left in the first as they had the lead 14-7. They would end up punting the ball as they reached midfield, and their drive ended up stalling due to penalties. So now Oklahoma had the ball on their own 25, and it took them all of 12 seconds to score as Trevor Knight hit Sterling Shepard this time for 75 yards and a touchdown, and the score was now tied at 14 apiece. So quite the exciting first quarter. TCU would bring the first quarter to the close as they had the ball on their own 36 after running a few plays to end the quarter. So in the beginning of the second, they started off with a few penalties. They had a couple of false starts, and that would end up leading them to punt a couple plays later. So now Oklahoma got the ball, and they would punt back to TCU as they failed to get anything going and went 3 and out. TCU now had the ball with 12 and a half minutes left before halftime, and it took them only 2 plays as they were already in Oklahoma territory. They were on the 46. They got a 70-yard run from Boykin, and then Boykin threw a 39-yard touchdown pass to Catalon. It was now 21-14 TCU over Oklahoma. So Oklahoma now took over with still over 12 minutes left in the half. They would end up punting the ball as they went 3 and out for the second straight drive. TCU wouldn't do much better in their next drive, but they actually made it to the midway point in the field as they were on the 50, 3rd and 5. Boykins dropped back to pass, and he was intercepted by Jordan Evans. So now Oklahoma had the ball back on their own 37-yard line, and Trevor Knight hit Sterling Shepard for a 37-yard pass that brought them into TCU territory as they were now on the 26. And then Perine just kept pounding the ball until he got into the end zone off of 1-yard run on 4th and goal. So Perine ran for 6 yards and 17 yards and 2 yards. He lost a yard, then he gained a yard, and then he punched it in for a yard. And this game was now tied up at 21 apiece. So now TCU took over with 5.5 minutes left before halftime. They had the ball on their own 30. They got the ball to midfield. They went into Oklahoma territory. And on 4th and 8 from the Oklahoma 13, they would be forced to kick a 31-yard field goal as they failed to get into the end zone on the drive as Oberkrom came in to kick the 3-point kick. And so now it was 24-21 as TCU led by a field goal over Oklahoma. So now Oklahoma had the ball with about a minute and a half left before halftime. They started the drive on their own 25, but they would make short work the field as they reached midfield, crossed midfield, and got to the 45. And once they got there, Trevor Knight hit Deron Neal for a 41-yard pass to bring it to the TCU 4. And a few plays later, they would have to settle for a field goal as they ended up losing 11 yards on a sack as Renanthony Texada sacked Trevor Knight, and then an incomplete pass would lead them to kick a 32-yard field goal as Hunnicutt came in to bring this game to a tie score at 24 apiece. And that would be it for the first half. So the game went into the locker rooms at halftime with the score tied 24-24, TCU and Oklahoma. Oklahoma got the ball first in the second half. They started their drive on the 20, marched all the way down the field. They ended up scoring on a 7-yard touchdown run on 3rd and 2 as Samaje Perine scored to make it 31-24 as the Sooners now had a 7-point lead over the Horned Frogs. So now TCU took over on their own 27. They marched down the field and into Oklahoma territory with 2nd and 10 from the Oklahoma 29, and that's when Trevone Boykin hit Deante Gray for a 29-yard pass to tie this game up at 31 apiece. Oklahoma would then go 3 and out and give the ball back to the Horned Frogs with about 5.5 minutes left in the third. So they had the ball on their own 39. They marched downfield across midfield. Actually, on the first play, they had a 25-yard pass, Boykins to Lessenby, to get across midfield, and then they chipped away until they got down into the red zone, but their drive stalled, and they would attempt a 32-yard field goal, but Oberkrom missed, and so the score remained tied at 31. So now Oklahoma took over with a little over 2 minutes left in the third, and they would end up punting the ball back to TCU with less than a minute left in the third as TCU would bring the third quarter to a close, and on the first play of the fourth quarter, they would punt the ball. So now Oklahoma had the ball on their own 38, and just 3 plays into the drive, Knight dropped back to pass, and he was intercepted by Dawson, and Dawson ran it back 46 yards for the pick 6 and the touchdown. Dawson made an incredible play. He used to play receiver when he was in high school. You could definitely tell that by the way he caught this ball. So he was right there near the line of scrimmage, and he just extended his arms, caught it, and just took off and made a beeline for the end zone. And it was now 37-31 as they got the 6 points. But then on the extra point, Oklahoma would block the kick, and Zack Sanchez ran it all the way back the length of the field for the 2-point conversion, and it was now a 4-point game with the score 37-33. So TCU gets the pick 6 and puts 6 points on the board, but then Oklahoma ends up with 2 points off the block kick in the return. So now it was 37-33 TCU over Oklahoma, and Oklahoma would have the ball on their own 31 after the kickoff. But they would go 3 and out as they failed to get anything going. TCU would also go 3 and out, and they punted the ball back to Oklahoma. So now Oklahoma had it with 11.5 minutes left, and they were backed up against their own end zone on their own 13. They got up near midfield, but their drive stalled, and they would punt to TCU. So now TCU had the ball on their own 20 with about 7 minutes left in this game. Boykins then would fumble the ball, and Oklahoma would recover. So it was a forced fumble by Hayes, and Stryker recovered. So now Oklahoma had the ball on the TCU 21 as they were primed and ready to score and take the lead in this game. But on the second play of this possession, Trevor Knight was intercepted by Chris Hackett, and so now TCU got the ball back as these two teams were turning over the ball back and forth. But wait, they weren't done just yet. As BJ Catalon fumbled the ball, and Oklahoma got it back as we had 3 turnovers in a span of less than 2 minutes, in a span of even less than a minute and a half. It was just over 1 minute, about a minute and 13, 15 seconds or so is all it took for those 3 turnovers. As first TCU fumbled the ball, then Oklahoma threw an interception, then TCU fumbled it again. So first the Boykin fumbled, then Knight had an interception, then Catalon fumbled, and now Oklahoma had the ball with just under 6 minutes left in this game, and it was on the TCU 46. They made it all the way down to the edge of the red zone. They were on the 23. It was 3rd and 2, and Trevor Knight ended up running for a yard as he was just shy of the first down. So now on 4th and 1 from the 22, they would give it to Perine, and he was stuffed as the TCU defense comes up huge and forced the turnover on downs. So now TCU had the ball with just over 3 minutes left in this game, and they needed to close things out, but they would not get a first down, and they would be forced to punt. So they gave the ball back to Oklahoma, so Oklahoma had the ball on their own 29 with less than a minute left in this game and a chance to win it as they were down by 4 points with the score 37-33 TCU over Oklahoma. Trevor Knight then threw an incomplete pass. Actually, on the first down, he had a 6-yard pass, then an incomplete pass on second down that made it 3rd and 4 from the 35. Knight was then sacked by Chucky Hunter, and that made it 4th and 6, but then they picked up a first down with a huge 21-yard gain as he hit Shepard, his favorite target, but then they ended up with a couple of incomplete passes, and that would be it, as they would fail to score, and this game came to a close as the Oklahoma Sooners are upset by the Texas Christian Horned Frogs with the final score 37-33 TCU over Oklahoma, as the number 25 ranked Horned Frogs upset the number 4 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. And this was quite the exciting game. And in this game, Trevone Boykin was 20 for 38 with 318 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also was the TCU's leading rusher with 77 yards off of 22 carries. Samaje Perine was the game's leading rusher, though, with 87 yards off 25 carries, and he had 3 touchdowns. Trevor Knight, the quarterback for Oklahoma, was 14 for 35 with 309 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. He also ran for 61 yards off of 13 carries. The leading receiver in this game was Shepard, who had 215 yards off of 7 receptions, one of which was for a touchdown in the losing effort. Colby Listenby was the leading receiver for TCU with 103 yards off of 5 receptions. So quite the exciting game. There was 3 interceptions in total, 1 for Oklahoma as Jordan Evans intercepted Boykins, and Dawson and Hackett intercepted Knight for TCU. So TCU comes up huge in an upset special, and this all day long was just upsets. Even Thursday night we saw Oregon get upset, and now we see Texas A&M go down, the number 6 team. We saw the number 3 team go down as Ole Miss ended up upsetting Alabama, and now we see the number 4 team go down as TCU upsets Oklahoma, and you have to wonder, what do these rankings even mean, as all the top teams keep losing. And after this game now, TCU is 4-0 on the season and remains undefeated in the Big 12, and Oklahoma now drops to 4-1 as they are handed their first loss of 2014. So the final score, TCU 37, Oklahoma 33.